ladies, glad that you're back. So today we're going to be talking about your title page on your Creatively Cultivating Consciousness mixed media journal. So if you chose not to buy a mixed media journal and you have loose individual papers, I recommend that you write a number on your page so that you know that it's the first one, or maybe get a folder and start laying them in there as soon as they're done in order of your completion. And that way you can bind them at a later point if you'd like to. If you chose to buy a mixed media journal and haven't already bought one, I have a tip for you. So I bought this Canson. In the Creative Supply video, I called it Canon. It's Canson, Canson. This is a 9x12, and it's I painted over the details, so I don't know the weight of this paper, but the weight of this paper still is not thick enough if I plan on doing watercolor, which I do. I love watercolor, so I used watercolor and it did warp a little bit, and you'll see some tips that I give in the upcoming video of me demonstrating creating this particular title page. So I want you to have fun creating your title page. It doesn't have to say Creatively Cultivating Consciousness. It can be whatever you want. It doesn't have to have any words at all. It can be just a design, whatever you'd like to do. I want you to get into practice of at least once per week doing something creative and thinking about who you are in the process. We'll be doing a few weeks of just getting used to patterns and what it evokes for you. Symbols, visual symbols, emojis is a great example of visual symbols, right? So if I were to say to anybody in the whole wide world, paint me a teacup, almost 100%, I would say, probably 100%, would draw essentially the same shape, right? A teacup is a teacup universally worldwide. So that was one of those things that translates no matter what language you're a part of. So that's what we're going to be getting into these first few weeks, is just practicing movement of your tools, your creative tools on a piece of paper, and what types of line work and imagery that will evoke the message that you want it to evoke. So we'll be doing a lot of prep work before we dive into intentional creativity. So what I want you to do is watch this upcoming video of me just demonstrating real quick how I did this one, and then you have your turn to do it and take as much time as you want. You can do this later if you'd like, but when you do, we would all love to see what you created. And so post a picture in this thread of your title page. Have fun, ladies. Talk to you soon. Here's the mixed media journal. And what I'm showing you here is the blank title page. And what's underneath it is just another 8.5, or not 8.5, an 11 by 17 piece of paper to protect the second page underneath. I've chosen to use watercolor, and here is my water brush pen. I'm opening it up and I'm going to dip it into my watercolor tray. I selected my first color and I'm priming it and getting the ink onto the brush. And now I'm applying it to the dry paper. What I noticed right away is that the yellow wasn't moving around the page very well because the page is dry. So what I'm about to do is take that water bottle, and it's a spray bottle, and I'm spraying the page to give it some moisture so that whatever ink that I choose is able to move across that paper a little bit smoother. And what you'll see is that the colors that I've chosen start to expand and bleed, if you will, across the page, allowing me to move the color around the page a lot easier than I would otherwise on a dry piece of paper. So there's times you want a dry piece and times you want a wet piece. And I encourage you, if you're loving watercolors as much as me, I encourage you to get yourself a couple of watercolor papers and try it out first and see how watercolor moves across paper, both dry and wet, and how wet. At some point in time during this video, I noticed that the amount of spray that I had on it was beginning to warp this paper. You can already see it now. It's warping the paper. But I have a tip at the end that will allow you to smooth it out a little bit. So I'll let you just watch here for a little while before I explain more. And picking up a new color, and see right away the purple went on thick and a bit dry until it came into contact with an area that had moisture. So once it came into contact with that moisture, you could see the purple bled down towards the bottom right side, and so it was having the nice effect that I liked. So for me, spray painting or spraying water onto the page beforehand was beneficial for the effect that I was going for. Now I'm going into blues. We're going to pick up the speed here a little bit. You will notice I use the water bottle and miss the page a couple more times. And the tip that I promised you is if you're seeing warpage, your paper getting wobbly or warping, at the end you will use your spray bottle again, gently mist the entire page, put a paper towel or paper on top of it, then close the book, and then put something heavy on the book. So basically the water takes the weave of the paper and flattens it out, and then you want to keep it flat by putting something heavy on it so it doesn't retract into itself. And now I'm adding the final words that I want to put on it. Well, it's not final for me. I tend to keep editing my title page as inspiration occurs and adding more and more to it, and I recommend that you do the same thing if you'd like to. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you soon.